to hear from our team that we're beating out legacy brands on the shelf in Target, I'm like, that's crazy to me.
It is. Hey guys, it's Joey Chanel from Sippin' and Sellin', and today's guest is Mallory Patton from Saint Spritz. Welcome, Mallory.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, I'm so happy you're my first Zoom guest, so we'll we'll figure this out together.
I love it. It might be your new way. That's
I
what I
know,
say.
I hope so.
Zoom in your pajamas. That's you've got it right.
My Saint Spritz pajamas, the joys of working from home, and thank you for this gift. I love them.
Oh my God, they're my favorite. It's something that was so cool. It was on my vision board. I had seen the Moo pajamas with martinis on it. And I was like, we've got to do a spritz one. So those are actually like the photography of our drinks on the pajamas, which is
So
cool.
awesome. They're really comfortable. I know the brands, but I didn't realize that they made pajamas. I think I have one of my favorite dresses or something from them. And
Yeah, another
you're gonna do
female founded.
are you gonna do other items or is this just like a limited run?
So we launched them like a couple months ago. They sold out in a week. So we did a second run of the exact same. So it's just been that SKU. But their pajamas are the highest moving SKU for them, I think their team told me. But we
Wow.
love working with them. It's two female founders, and they're just like such a great team. So I would love to do another one. I want to do
Yeah.
navy blue.
Ooh, navy blue would be nice.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we could go off topic, I'm sure. Like I said, we have so much to talk about. We're getting to know each other on this call, and I want all the listeners to know about St. Spritz if they don't already. Our background together was that I had reached out to you guys on Instagram when I saw the brand launching and said that I would love to be a part of it in some capacity. And I've been following the journey, and you've been so sweet and always responsive. And I love seeing all the wins. I've also had people in the industry say, that they knew that I had either reached out to you or saw me engaging early on in social and said, like, did you try them yet? And of course, I've always been a fan. And now there's a line extension outside of the first SKU, which was the Aperol Spritz, and I'm sipping on my favorite, which is the Hugo.
Oh my gosh, I wish I had one right now. The Hugo has been like, so the Amalfi was the first SKU, and that was like to capture all of the craze of the Aperol Spritz. But we knew like not everybody loves Aperol Spritz, and what was really important for us when we made that Amalfi flavor was we wanted to make it better for you. So
Correct.
then we were like, okay, not everybody loves bittersweet. Let's get some other flavors going. And we wanted our brand to be super understandable. So we said, let's do top three iconic Italian spritzes. And that Hugo is like the number two spritz in Italy, which everyone's so excited about this year and kind of end of last summer. It's so delicious. I'm so glad to hear you love it.
Yes, I do love it. It's so refreshing. And you're right. Aperol Spritz definitely, I feel like we could, I've listened to a few podcasts that you've been on. So I'm trying to be different with my conversations, but I do want to give a background about the company. I do want to give a background about who you are. So maybe let's back up a little bit. Saints
Okay.
is your product. You're in business with your family. Can you just dive into who your family is and what the brand identity is about?
Yep. So we launched the business first direct to consumer. It's called Saint Spritz. It's three co-founders. We're all family. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law. My sister-in-law Jojo was on The Bachelorette, so she had a big audience. My brother-in-law Ben has started and sold several different companies alongside my husband, who I'm married to their brother, obviously. Um, and those companies had ranged from like restaurant business to a shipping business in Dubai to a healthcare company in Texas. So just super entrepreneurial family. And we always like kind of wanted to do something together. And after a summer in Italy, where Ben, my brother-in-law, got married, we were drinking so much Aperol Spritz, and we were like, man, this should be ready to drink. Like, this is kind of a pain mixing these up when we have a party, and like there's no consistency. If I have an Aperol Spritz at the Ritz bar, it tastes different than at Johnny's Dive Bar. Like, let's just make one that tastes great, always the same, and you can crack and pour over ice. And so we just kind of like one foot after the next started formulating it, and got into the beverage space kind of as consumers looking for a product. And it was really important for us when we discovered kind of what was in the Aperol spritzes we loved, red dye 40, yellow 6, added sugar, that we wanted to formulate from more of like a Whole Foods
Mhm.
compliance standpoint with better ingredients. So we launched the brand direct to consumer using JoJo's following. That kind of 3 million person audience was a great test market to see, like, do we have fit? Are people interested in this? And when we launched online, we sold out so fast. And I think we did like 300 grand in sales in the first 10 days. And we were like, man, this is people who are spending you had to spend almost an average order value was $100 to get the product. Shipping was expensive. Our cost of goods was so high at launch. And we're like, if we can bring this to a traditional retail market with like a better price to consumers, like I think we really have something here. So last January, we launched Texas, which is kind of where most of our family is from. And that's our backyard. And so we launched Texas last January into traditional retail, and we just had Total Wine and HEB, and that was just like from me direct messaging those people on LinkedIn and saying, "Hey, here's our brand, give us a shot," and ended up getting a test within Target last summer.
Amazing.
And the test went so well, and those 5 locations in Texas that we were outperforming the category at a crazy multiple that they asked us to expand the full state of Texas for Target in October. And then in October, they asked us to launch nationally for spring, which was crazy. And I still don't even like, I blacked out. I don't even know how we did it. But we did it. And so this spring is that national with Target launch. It's going amazing. We just heard that I think the number one, we were number 2 last week, but I think we moved into the number 1 spot for wine-based cocktails in Target nationally, which is
crazy. It's amazing. And that's something important to key into for the listeners who are out there who don't speak our lingo, who are not in the industry. And I know you're new to it. And we're talking a little bit about that I've been in the industry legally 18 years, but I also work with my family. Yeah, forever, since my mom's, being in her stomach, and have a dad who's still in the industry, 88 years old, and brothers and all of that. So I understand the pressure and the joys of working with a family business. For sure, it can get, also a little bit hard with who's in charge of what. And there's a lot that has changed over my 18 years in the industry that is so good for setting you up for success with your timeline. It's all about female empowerment in our industry right now. And, in general in the market, I think that's the climate that's going on. The RTD category is booming, but at the same time, your launch was kind of post-COVID. So it's like you had that risk. Like you said, your cost of goods was high. You were going after one of the biggest brands in the world at the time, because Aperol comes in and out, just like every other cocktail, but it was having its time. You also grazed past that it's wine-based, which that in itself is a separate identity from the normal tradition of RTD. Most people are doing seltzers. Most people are doing something that has either, a different sugar sweetener, like a monk fruit or something.
Well, I'm really sensitive to fake sweet. And I think what we felt was like, and when you mentioned post-COVID, there are so many brands like in the market. It's absolutely crazy. It's impossible to get distribution. It's impossible to get buyer attention. But we felt as like the world did not need another seltzer.
Right.
What we felt like there was missing was there was not like any brand that captured that vibe of the Amalfi Coast and those iconic spritzes in a ready to drink. And I always joke, I'm like, there's nothing in a can that feels like LVMH-ish to me. There's no Perrier sparkling water for RTD. So we really wanted to come out and be that. And, it has been tough, like, because it's a tough industry. But I'll say, and I think it might be contrary to what some other people would think, but we love working as a family.
Right.
And it sounds like your family is really tight too, but there's a different sort of knowing each other. That's not a corporate environment. That's like, we can each tap in when somebody has something going on, which sounds silly, but it's like, we know each other. Like I know my brother-in-law, his kid might be sick and they got to take him to the doctor. So he's not going to be, it's like, there's no corporate kind of weirdness,
That's a big deal for sure, to have that environment and climate.
Yeah. And we all have like I think in a startup environment and, when you're founders of a brand, you wear so many hats. So like we all wear so many hats, but we all have really specific lanes. Like Ben, my brother-in-law, is CFO, CEO. I always joke, I'm like, he is a human computer. He was the youngest sovereign wealth fund manager over in Dubai,
Wow.
graduated like number two or something in his class at Wharton. He just can look at businesses and numbers in a way that I will never be able to.
He's like
And
Rain Man.
like Rain Man,
Yeah.
truly. And he loves doing it. Like that's the difference. It's like as founders is like he walk 24/7. He cannot stop sending emails and Excels and future forecasting. He loves it. And Jojo, obviously from her time on The Bachelorette, she's very into marketing and brand and all things influencer, which like I don't fully understand that world at all. So that's not my language. And she
Right.
can speak that and our paid ads and meta and performance on social. And, I get to focus a lot on setting up our distribution, winning new retailers, getting our cool deal with Coca-Cola in Puerto Rico. Like I just am doing a lot of the selling of our story and building out on innovation. So we've got pretty separate lanes and we work really well together.
That's amazing. We were talking a little bit about when we were getting to know each other about Puerto Rico. So I would love to hear how you guys ended up there. I've talked a little bit about it on the past when I had my dad on that, he won a trip when he was a salesman from the distributor and got to go to Puerto Rico as a gift for one of the distilleries back then. And a gift, I mean, he earned it. And
Yeah.
he fell in love with Puerto Rico. He fell in love with rum down there. He found Don Q and he ended up exporting it to the US and brokering the deal with Suralis for the US markets. And in order to do that, you had to be resident. So he bought a place there, first in Isla Verde, and then we moved to Dorado Beach, which I think is where you
That's
are.
where I live.
So I would love to hear how
Small
you
world.
guys got there because it is a small world. I mean, he did that in the 80s because legally he had to be a resident in order to do this.
Yeah.
And then we just grew up half my life there. And then I want to say maybe 2016, I started to find a lot of young, affluent couples moving down there for the tax benefits, but I
Yeah.
don't know many other people that went down there for any other reason except maybe post Maria and like they were worried about the hurricane and they felt they had to be philanthropic and go and try to
Yeah.
help and then maybe ended up staying there. But people were filming movies there,
Yeah.
COVID and
I'll
all
tell
this.
you what, like I love Puerto Rico. Like it has become, we've been there 6 years and seven now. I think seven now.
Nice.
And it truly is, it's home. I'm originally from New Jersey, but spent the majority of my adult life in Texas. And that's where I met my husband. And that's where Jojo and Ben grew up. Um, but we actually, all three of us now live in Puerto Rico. So the way
Amazing.
that we found out about Puerto Rico was funny. So after my husband sold his business, he got fully addicted to kite surfing. And he had some time off because he was like one of those 24/7 entrepreneurs. And after he sold the business, he was like, I'm just going to kite surf. That's all I'm going to do for the next year. And so he traveled around kite surfing and became obsessed with the sport. And early on in our marriage, in Dallas, like this poor guy was like going to lakes in Texas and trying to kite surf. And like, cause I was living in Texas to be together. And then once we got married, he was like, I really want to live at the beach. Like I'm so passionate about kite surfing. Like I want to be somewhere I can do it more often. And
Amazing.
I don't really love change. And like I was pretty ingrained in Dallas and I was like, we'll see. And so he had gone on like a kite trip to the kite school at Dorado Beach, which is this incredible cove that's protected where you can kite. And he was like, there's a really great kite school down there. After my son was born, let's spend a summer like checking out that spot.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent one summer there. And like you said, that so many people had moved there for the tax incentives that like when I got there, I was like, there's so many cool young families here. And I think I don't know what the word would be, but to relocate your entire family with young kids to an island, it brings a sort of spirit of it's a lot of entrepreneurs, but it's just like easygoing, cool, hardworking people. Because there's a lot of people that are successful and they're not going to leave their Manhattan apartment or Malibu beach house. These
Right.
people are like open to adventure and want to do something different. So it's a great community and we love living down there. And I
Yeah.
love you guys had that experience too. It's so funny. I bet there's some crossover with
There
our
has to be because my parents,
one.
for sure. I'm sure we were there and we didn't realize because I didn't know. Unlike the popular opinion, I do understand that JoJo is an influencer, but I didn't watch The Bachelorette. I love
Yeah.
reality shows, but I don't have as much time as being a business owner. And that definitely was my drug of choice, but I didn't get on that bandwagon. So I didn't
Yeah.
know her that way. I knew her as an influencer. And
Oh,
then
really?
she would post, of course, it would come across my feed. So this makes total sense. It makes sense that you sold what you sold when she posted about it. And that's the beauty of that language. But yes, so Dorado Beach, I grew up there. We lived in a private neighborhood, but we were club members at the Ritz-Carlton Reserve. It wasn't called that back in the day. It was the Embassy Suites.
Yes.
And so we were members there forever, and my dad got grandfathered in. So there was only a couple families that were grandfathered in, and they allowed us to stay as club members. And we would go and visit, and we'd visit my family, and then we'd stay there. And yeah, I grew up there, which is
You
really
got to come back and visit.
I know. We used to come back a little bit more often, like once a year, but my mom unfortunately isn't doing well health-wise, so we don't travel as much because of that. But eventually I would love to get back there and yeah, we should go have dinner or something or
Absolutely.
you have Saint Spritz available or is that a goal eventually, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So obviously we launched the US first in Texas last year. Um, but we live in Puerto Rico and a bunch of our friends had tried our product DTC and like my friends were ordering like by the caseload. Like my DT, my brother-in-law was like, dude, your friends brought 10 cases online. I'm like, Ben, they love this product. Like this whole crew loves Aperol Spritz, but like they don't
Right.
want to have red dye 40. They want it ready to drink. So they were bringing it in like suitcases. Like I still have one of my best friends. Like we were just in Tampa a couple months ago, and she was like, "I gotta swing by and get some State Spritz so I can put it in my suitcase." I was like, "I have got to get this product here."
For sure.
So we looked at importing it and selling it, and obviously not from the industry. And it felt weird to be like the founder of a brand, and like all my friends love it, and they come over, and I have like I have like four of them in my fridge. I'm like, you can't have these.
Importing them. Yeah.
Um, so I started having conversations and figuring out like, okay, well, let's find a distributor in Puerto Rico. And we really quickly learned it is an island. It's a big island. When you're on it, you don't even really realize it's an island, right? It's not like St. Bart's or something where you can see all around. And so things are more expensive. So
Yeah.
for us to import the product, the tax was something my memory's not great on numbers, but I want to say it was like $2 per can in tax.
Yeah, that's a lot. Because usually,
So
just for people listening, it's like $5 a case for like Texas. So that's a lot for
yeah.
a can.
And so in a market that's more price sensitive, we were like, we can't make that work. Like it just won't work. And through a mutual friend that I actually, it's a kite surf friend of my husband from 10 years ago. He was like, you got to meet with this guy. And I bet your dad knows him. It's a guy named Marco
Okay.
in Puerto Rico. And I met with him like in La Placita in San Juan. He was like, meet me at Placita at 11 a.m. And I was like, I told my husband, I was like, I'm going to Placita to meet a man to talk about Puerto Rico distribution. He was like, see you later. Um, and like literally, we were in a coffee shop in San Juan, and he tried the product. And this man was responsible for like bringing Tito's to the island, and he like helped push Medalla into like a huge brand there. And he tasted it, and he was like, it like froze. And he was like, I need to call my friend at Coca-Cola. Hold on. And I'm like, okay. And he calls like the owner of Coca-Cola for Puerto Rico. And he's like, Alberto, I'm with this girl and she has this product and it's amazing. And then he's like, can you go to Coke tomorrow at 10? I'm like, yes, we could go. I called Jojo and I'm like, Jojo, get in the car. We're going to Coke tomorrow. She's like, what's going on?
So
And
good.
so we formed a relationship with them just because the import tax was crazy, and CC1 Coca-Cola for Puerto Rico is vertically integrated. So we formed a relationship with them to not only distribute in Puerto Rico but produce. So we produce and distribute with Coca-Cola in Puerto Rico, and that's expanding down island. We have like I think 10 other islands in the contract that they also
Yep.
move Coca products to. So it's been awesome. They're a great team to work with. Obviously, from being
Yes.
in beverage your whole life, data and information is incredibly expensive. So to be able to work with the Coke team and learn from them, and like that was kind of part of the cool part of the conversation is like after we got on their team, they're like, guys, Aperol's up 70% on the island. Like we can crush it with this product. And it's doing
Absolutely.
great there.
Absolutely. And
Amazing to see also like vertically integrated in the first 30 days, they had 300 PODs.
wow. See, that's massive, especially for, again, frame of reference for those of you that don't know. Any product that's either with a traditional distributor, like a small Plaza Sellers on the island or a bigger Sorales situation, that isn't easy. Like on average, they're moving 30 cases across the whole island. So that to be 300 is massive, especially because you have multiple SKUs. And like I said, it's a saturated market, RTDs, but not really tapped on the island.
But not on the island. If you go to the, well, strangely enough, in Econo, there's a lot of product, but if you go to a, this was like what shocked us, right? You go to a Supermax, which is their like big
Yeah.
grocery there. There's the RTD aisle has like 3 options.
Yeah,
You go to a Whole Foods here or a Target here, there's like 3,000.
absolutely.
So it's really cool to have our product in Puerto Rico where we live. That's home. We love working with the team locally. They've been so supportive, obviously sharing all of their learnings with us and helping us grow as a small female founded brand, like in an ecosystem that we didn't know how it worked. Because Puerto Rico operates 1,000 times different than the US, which in
Yeah.
some ways is amazing. But in other ways, if you were a supplier trying to enter that market, you just physically could never figure it out.
No, for sure. And there's definitely benefits. We source our rum from Puerto Rico. I know Alberto, like you said, he's been in business with my
Oh,
a long time. It's a lot of the same
amazing.
players, dinosaurs in the industry. And I
They're
get
amazing.
there are some benefits, like they will give you tax breaks and help to kind of throw off or offset some of those costs. And then they don't have certain things like we have here with the female owned or female founded benefits. So there's some catching up to do, but there's some progressiveness that we would like to mirror in the US, I think. So
Yeah. I
there,
think for us, it was more like a strategic partnership for us to like learn a lot from their team. Obviously, prohibitively expensive for us to do the island on our own. But also just like access. There's things that they can do as Coca-Cola that like we just would never be able to do. Like they're like, "Oh, you want to be in Costco? Okay, we're going to present. We'll probably have it in January."
right.
It's just different. Like when we got into Walmart there, they're like, "Oh, you're in Walmart in the US? Okay, we'll drop it off next week."
Yeah.
I'm like, "This is so different
That
than in the
doesn't
US.
happen. It doesn't happen. So that's
There's
so awesome that you guys have all
buying
the
windows and new
Yeah.
item forms."
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
I
been
mean, it's awesome.
loosey-goosey, but it's been great.
That's great. And like you had mentioned in the beginning with LinkedIn, I follow everything you guys are doing on social media. Obviously a fan, like I said, and I'm always supportive and you're super supportive of me on LinkedIn. And it's really nice. I love that platform because you can just get in touch or find the people that make sense. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to answer you, but it's great that you have been having that success. And like you said, not everything has been so rosy. I'm sure there's been some
Yeah.
you're talking about the big wins, but I'm sure you've learned a lot, especially being in this new space. Like you said, you guys are entrepreneurial, but you didn't come from the spirits industry. You just, were consumers and it's evolved. And like I said, your time is now. The time that you launched made a lot of sense just from me on the supplier side. I understand that because yes, RTDs were saturated, but like I said, there weren't wine-based cocktails all, up and down the submission forms.
Mm-hmm.
You having the female founded part. The family business is a whole separate awesome part for you, but some people do care about that because there
Yeah.
are buyers for a lot of these markets that it is father and son, like Specs in Texas. There's a couple other things that are championing, say that 3 times fast, your success. And it is strategic, it is smart, but a lot of this does have to do with being a business owner who believes in their product, who's authentic with their messaging. You guys have always talked about that, how, it's a destination in every sip, or, you've got your catchphrases that were untapped. And there's a lot of people out there. I feel like when you're selling a product, it's selling the romance of it, you're selling the story of it. And a lot of people have, maybe not had the luxury or the availability to travel to the Amalfi Coast And you bring a lot of that elevation in this cocktail, but it's also, like you said, it's cost effective now that you have these partnerships. So maybe the people that wanted to buy it online and just were a little gun shy because of the pricing or the shipping or whatever. And now it's readily available. And you had touched on it a little bit, but your most recent big win is Whole Foods, which is a
Yeah.
very big deal. And I would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I'll get into the Whole Foods piece, but I really appreciate what you said about like, what we felt was like everything on Instagram was like Amalfi Coast, all these brands were doing influencer trips. And like, we wanted to include the consumer in that conversation. Cause like you said, not everybody gets to go there, but like you can have that moment. And I think what St. Spritz does a really good job at is like, we really identify like an occasion, right? You could identify what St. Spritz is about. It's that like aperitivo hour when you're sitting in your backyard with some olives or a pizza. It's like we've captured that moment where you can identify. It's like, I know when I'm having a margarita. I know when I'm having a spritz. It's like not this floaty seltzer. Where do I have this? Where does this fit into my life? It's like definitely an identifiable moment. But yeah, Whole Foods was a crazy huge win. We formulated for Whole Foods. Like that was the driving thing. Like when we started conversations with our formula house, we were like, listen, these are the rules. It needs to taste like an Aperol Spritz, but it needs to be absolutely clean and it needs to look like an Aperol Spritz. And they're like, it's going to be very difficult to get that bright red color naturally because like things change with time when you have natural ingredients, pH, all these things. And it's funny how like co-founders balance each other out. Like Jojo was like, no, it's not orange enough. And I was like, Jojo, it's fine. Like, we need to get this to market. You got to drop it. And she was like, no, we can get it brighter. And like, we kept going. And it's funny as like consumers founding a brand, it was like, we didn't cut corners that a big conglomerate would be like, that's going to be too expensive. Like out the gates, we formulated, we're like, we want it to taste perfect. We want it to look perfect. Right. And so all the things that we did was like, it's perfect. Premium, right? But yeah, so being from the gate formulating for Whole Foods was like the leading light. I felt like there was a major disconnect between your consumer of Aperol Spritz and the person who shops at Whole Foods or likes to travel. I don't think that customer would, if they knew about the red dye 40 and yellow 6, would be stoked about that. Because I have 2 kids, and I'm not readily giving them Hawaiian punch, across all frames of all of our lives. I still indulge in things that are bad for me, but like when there's a better option available that tastes the same,
why not?
Why not? And I actually
photographs beautifully, so it's the same. You're not losing that,
Yeah, exactly. So. And that was very, very difficult to get that color. And I will say thank you to Jojo for sticking in her heels in the ground to get to that bright orange, because it is really special, because that's part of it, right? Like when we hosted and when we came back from Italy and poured those Aperol spritzes, people are like, what is that? What is that? What is that? If it was clear,
no,
it's just not the same thing.
Same. You shop with your eyes first is what I always say. And your packaging, your messaging, your boxes, everything is really elevated. It's very important to the consumer. It's important to the partnerships that you have with like a Target or a Whole Foods, because again, most people shop with their eyes first. You said there's 3,000 plus RTDs. What's going to make them convert a sale for something they were going in for originally if you're not doing samplings, which I know you guys are big on, and you're always, posting that you're going to be at certain locations, but you can't be there all the time. So you have to convey that message. And
it's like, you're 100% right. You're shopping with your eyes. And, I think it's naive to only formulate your product and talk about your brand like based on what's in your head, because you have to market to a broader consumer. But our consumer is, Jojo and I and our peers and our friends were going mostly female to start. Like that was our goal. And if I saw that box on the shelf, like I would be like, oh, that's cute. I'll put it in my cart. Like I get hit. I'm like, I always say the house always wins. Like when we won Target nationally, I was like, damn, I'm wearing a Target shirt. Like I go in Target and like anything that's cute, I'm like, put it in the cart. So that's like how we designed the packaging, is like, we wanted to just grab someone, not that was like, I'm coming to the store to look for specifically a spritz. It's like, oh, that's an interesting product. I'd love to check it out. And the stripes, if you've been to Italy or you've seen everything about Italy, they're supposed to mimic the striped umbrellas that you see on the coasts of the Amalfi Coast, your Fontelinas and all those. So
Yeah.
that's
It's very
that.
smart. And, that's something that lends to you being a female because you guys understand that space. You understand that consumers are looking for what's Instagrammable, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to try to be a hero brand, in a cocktail that's been around for 40 plus years or longer, like you better come correct. So yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to JoJo that she did do that. I'm curious how you did get that color, what certain grapes you used to mimic it, or did we use other ingredients?
The most important thing for us on because all of our products are 30% juice.
Okay.
And when we led with formulation, I was like, I don't want to use stevia. I don't want to use anything. It like when you sip it and then you have that weird
Yeah,
aftertaste.
terrible.
And I didn't want it to be like a seltzer where you like drink it and it's like, it's kind of just like a flavored water. I wanted the body. We wanted that cocktail in a can. So we led with it's got to be at least 30% juice, which obviously you're an industry
Yep.
person.
I understand.
Most of the big brands like that you see on the shelf are 2% juice, maybe. So
Mhm.
that's an expensive ingredient, but that was important for us to capture.
Yeah.
And so the Amalfi being our most expensive SKU to create, and obviously our baby, a big piece of that was using clarified orange juice, which is more expensive, but that's how the drink isn't cloudy and gets that bright, like
I'm gonna
uh,
show the people watching in case you haven't. Oh no, wait, I don't have a Malfi. I
you
can.
got you do behind you. You should pour it. It's so pretty. I'll send you more. Don't worry.
No, it's fine. I was one of the first ones I ordered it for sure. Cause like I said, I wanted to try it.
I love that.
Have this
You know, and
beautiful little cup.
I love you supported from day one, and I love that we connected on LinkedIn. Obviously, the beverage industry is not
It's
female, not
small, but it's big, but see, the color's perfect.
so pretty.
But
Um,
yeah, I love LinkedIn. Like I said, it's a great networking space, and I've been watching the journey, and I think you guys have done a really great job. You've been very smart with your partnerships. And like I said, people have been asking me about it. Someone from Breakthrough asked me about it maybe 2024. And I was like, I actually tried it. I actually love it. Someone from another platform I love for samplings, Pinata, they asked about it.
we use piñata now.
Yep. It's very cool. It's very cool watching it. And yes, there's not many of us in the industry that are in the spirit side.
But I support like I found so many cool founders, not even just specific to beverage. It's more like broad across CPG. And
Mhm.
I learned about their products via LinkedIn. And like I know the grind that it takes. And like you said, everything on LinkedIn looks very like spritzy and fancy, but like this is a grind. Like I have two young kids. I'm grinding out. Jojo, Ben, and I are on flights, like red eyes to rush back to be with our families. Like this has been a grind. But
Yeah.
like when I see other founders and they put forth something that they poured their blood, sweat, and tears into, I'm like, I see it in the store. I'm like, I don't even care if it tastes terrible. I'm buying it because
Right.
I support the hustle. And I find great brands that way on LinkedIn. Like that's how I found Midday Squares. I don't know
I
if you follow
love them.
they're another family founded business. I love their snacks and
Yeah.
like their story is so gritty and real and I can relate to it because I'm in this different space, but like same
You get it.
hustle.
You feel, real recognizes real, as they say, and it's an empowering platform to see and experience with these other founders and lift them up and validate your hard efforts. And, it's just really cool to watch everybody evolving. And it's really nice. And like I said, I couldn't believe that it's been 2 years already because it feels like you guys just got started. And it's amazing that you're getting these tests in Target, but then it's national and tests in Whole Foods, and we're putting it in the universe. It's going to be national because
Hey.
Yes, because Whole Foods only usually does these small resets that they call like a plug and play. And, other than that, it's like every 2 to 3 years, they'll do a full refresh. And so it's very hard. You have to have the right ingredients. You were thinking of that. You were being very smart. And
Yeah.
it's important to have like long-term goals. I'm sure you guys have like a 5-year plan that you had on your vision board. What's next for St. Spritz? What's on the target list?
Well, I'm definitely like, I wouldn't say I'm woo woo, but I'm definitely a vision board gal. And I remember JoJo making fun of me before we even had product in cans. We just had like the aluminum wrap, and I took it in, I wrapped it around a Red Bull can. And then I took it into Target and I put it on the shelf and I took a picture of it. And she was like, "You are going to get us in trouble. You cannot bring that in there and take photos." I was like, "I need it for my vision board. We're going to get in Target." And it's hard, I'll say, like, in the beverage industry before we launched, like there was a, first of all, I'll give a nod to like the females in the industry. We connected early on with Kat from 21 Seeds,
Mm-hmm.
close, well, become really good friends with Katie Beal Brown from Ranch Water.
Mm-hmm.
And these other chicks in this industry with competitive, it's a competitive space, have lifted us up and helped us so much to avoid roadblocks or give us feedback, like gave us their time. And it's been so amazing. But I'll say on the other side of that, before launching the brand, when we had like, because basically like I didn't know the industry, so anyone that would talk to me I called.
Right.
So many people being like, this is just, if you've never been in this space, you're not going to be able to do it. This is like, you need to have industry experience. If you're going to launch a brand, you need to be prepared to spend 10 to 15 million in the first 12 months. I was like, damn, this is not really like encouraging convo. And
Right.
then I basically found that like every single person I talked to, and a lot of these people were really high up in big companies and accomplished great things. Every single one of them was saying something different.
Right.
You got to be in 4 packs, you got to be in 6 packs, you got to be in this size can. I was like, I think we just got to go with our gut.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think the long and the short of that was, just setting our vision and going to it. Right. So I think it was like, we wanted to be in Target, set our goals on doing that. Like we wanted to start small in Texas. Like, so we got Texas set up and focused on our placements there and just be like kind of flying the plane as when. And I think ultimately, like my vision for St. Spritz is like, I want it to be everywhere. Like I want it to be in Europe. I want it to be like huge. And I think we've built a great team so far. Most of us are family. We've made some outside hires really amazingly. Katie Beal Brown from Ranch Water was like,
Amazing.
"You've got to hire this guy, Michael. He's going to help you." And he joined our team in the fall to help us with our national rollout and has been amazing. So our team is growing. I think like when you say 5 year, I don't know if we've, Ben probably on the weekend has gotten to 5 year goals, but
Of
I
course,
think for
in an
me,
Excel format.
yeah, he's got it mapped out. For me, it's like nose, I get very nose down. It's like last summer when we got Target, it was like, okay, hammering Target, gonna crush this. Now it's like we got Target nationally. It was like that was the focus. And that took everything out of us to get distribution in O&D, like getting distributors to answer the phone for this spring,
Yeah.
but we got it done. It's like just head down. Now it's like we've got Whole Foods. I'm head down on that. We also got Walmart in like kind of their Ocean regional stores. I think it's like
Cool.
300 or 400 stores, but like just crushing it where we're at. I think we've created a really awesome brand. I think sometimes where new brands go wrong is like they launch and then it's like they're all things. They've got like espresso martinis, Cosmos, non-alcs, weed drinks. It's like I want Saint Spirits to be very digestible, almost in a spindrift way. It's
Okay.
iconic Italian spritzes made better for you and ready for you.
I love
And
it.
like, do we have some great innovation plans? Some like other Italian type cocktails that we want to launch not next spring? Totally. I think our like most like imminent coming innovation will be variety packs, which
Perfect.
is going to be huge for us because that was impossible at launch because of our economies of scale.
Yeah.
But now being national, we're able to support variety packs. So I think that'll be really big for spring 2026. And just seeing kind of what happens next. I mean, we just at St. Spritz, it's like we open the doors and see who's behind it. That partnership with Coca-Cola in Puerto Rico has turned out to be amazing, and I think in this industry, while like it's so amazing for us to see that as a small brand, like to hear from our team that we're beating out legacy brands on the shelf in Target, I'm like, that's crazy to me.
It is. It is.
So
And it's one of those stories that like I said, I'm so thankful for you to be a guest on the show because I personally see the end game. I think I do. And I think you're going to be one of those conversations that we refer to in the industry. Like I know people will say there are legacy can brands, but I feel like there was so much fatigue for a while because of COVID. And I've seen so many different brands come to me, like you said, espresso martinis, to a nitro, to a this, to a that, to a THC. And there was nothing of interest and there was nothing that seemed so fresh and exciting. And I feel like every store had their favorite brands and like they came in hot and they just kept expanding and new flavors and like, okay, we're not just the margarita flavors. Now we're also the palomas and the this and that. And I feel like the end goal I see with you guys is that you are going to be a household name. You are going to be a brand that's probably going to be bought by someone big. And everybody's going to be so excited to talk about it. It's going to be one of those Tito's or another one of those brands that we don't want to say, but legacy brands that had these heyday stories. I just see that because it is special. Like I said, packaging is very unique. Female founded is huge. The family element is very special. And I don't pretend to know everything. I always say that. And I've seen a lot of brands come and go, but you're being smart with a lot of your approaches. And yes, like we said, it sounds like everything's so great and it was so easy. It's not. And you refer to that and you are being smart by saying we want to win right in Target. We are going to go to Whole Foods because that was the goal and the formulation was, that was the end game. But you're not saying, I want to be in 30 states overnight and I want to be in everybody's, afterthought, impulse buy, every single store. That's not what you're saying. You're saying, oh my gosh, Target was the right move. We're selling out on shelves and you're posting it and you're going back to the consumer and saying thank you because you built this brand with your consumer and the following that it sounds like, JoJo had. And that is very important because it's authentic. And I talk about this a lot with influencers or celebrity brands when the message isn't authentic. The consumer understands that and they can see it and you can sniff it out. And I think that's why you guys are going to succeed. And I really appreciate you being on the show because I love that here, even though it's 2 years later, it's early stages. And I feel like you have so much more to come.
Yeah. And I think that's been a big piece of our conversation since the beginning is we do feel like obviously we have to do stuff with influencers. JoJo herself is an influencer, but we really wanted to do stuff that focused on our community and made consumers feel special. It's like everything you see on Instagram is all these like lavish influencer trips. So as a brand, we've tried to support like our community in different ways. And that's why we do what we call the St. Spritz Country Club. And it's like a pickleball event. And like we invite all of our consumers to it. And like the drinks are free. And we have all these great snack brands and we give out merch. And it's like that's the community we want to foster. And on like another level, as founders, like we put together, my sister ran this, which was amazing. She put together like a founder trip. Those all female founders from different, one was a swimwear, one was a jewelry, one was an electric bike company, like all across the board. But it was like getting together with other females and like the hype not being about like flashy influencer stuff. It was like focused on people who are running awesome businesses. And I think that authenticity comes through. And I think that's what we're trying to do at St. Spritz.
It's amazing. Well, I think you're doing it. You're knocking it out of the park. Thank you so much, Mallory. I appreciate you being on the pod. It's awesome. I know we've tried to get it going a couple times and finally we're here. So
I'm so glad we got it done. And hopefully, I'll be able to see you in Puerto Rico or meet in person at some point. I love chatting with you and obviously you're an industry baby, so you know it all. I'd love to pick your brain as like a podcast interviewer.
You're so sweet. Definitely don't pretend to know it all, but I will take the compliment and say thank you. And I'll say to the viewers out there, thank you so much for joining another episode of Sippin' and Sellin' with Mallory Patton from St. Spritz. Please go pick it up. We're at HEB, we're at Walmart, we're at Target, we're at certain
Total Wine.
Total Wine, our favorite. And cheers to you, Mallory. And thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.